Let's bring in our business editor, Charles Pellegrino, to discuss some of the latest tariff developments around the world, starting with, of course, Donald Trump raising the stakes in his negotiations, Charles, with India.
The U.S. president announced he will be raising tariffs on Indian exports to 25% starting August 1st, so this Friday, leaving one day for talks that have been going on for months to reach some sort of conclusion. That 25% tariff is just 1 percentage point lower than what Trump had threatened to impose on Liberation Day in early April when he announced a slew of tariffs targeting countries around the world. But Trump also threatened to apply an additional penalty on India for its purchases of Russian oil. Well, as usual, one of the major points of contention is the fact that India's exports to the U.S. are much more important than U.S. exports to India, as you can see there, leaving Washington with a deficit of over $45 billion last year. Among those goods are pharmaceutical preparations, cell phones, and gem diamonds. Another point of contention, Trump has previously called India the tariff king, as it has a number of protectionist measures that defend its local industries, and it has an average tariff rate that stands at 14%. By applying this pressure, the U.S. is hoping to achieve greater market access for U.S. firms, as well as commitments from Indian firms to invest in the U.S. Take a listen to National Economic Council Director Kevin Hassett.
I think that what's going to happen is that India is going to cut their prices to the U.S. In order to maintain their market share. That's what everybody else has been doing. And then they might reconsider their practices, which have led to this higher rate. And over time, I would guess that Indian firms will be onshoring production in the U.S. and Indians might even open their markets more to us so that we reconsider a future trade deal.
And Charles, the reason Donald Trump is concerned about India's oil import purchases, rather?
He's previously expressed a desire to penalize any country that buys Russian oil because of Moscow's full-scale invasion of Ukraine. That oil revenue key in propping up Russia's wartime economy. In spite of Western sanctions, Russia has been able to find buyers for their oil in other places, China and India. And actually, India imports around 88% of all the oil it uses. And since 2022 and the start of the war, India's drastically increased its purchases of Russian oil. And last year, the country was in the top 5 suppliers for New Delhi, in third position behind Iraq and Saudi Arabia, and ahead of the United Arab Emirates and the United States. It's not just about stopping Russia. Trump has promised to be the U.S.'s top oil salesman and is hoping to increase purchases of U.S. energy products as well. We saw such a commitment included in the U.S.-EU trade deal. For instance, this is also a handy way to dig at the trade deficit with India.
So the EU jumped to make that deal, but India didn't.
Absolutely. There are different reasons for India being able to hold on to its negotiating position. The U.S. is asking for greater access for India's for its own agricultural products, but India has a long-standing policy of defending its local farming industry, which constitutes an important voting bloc. The trade deal it signed with the U.K. last week, for instance, does not include any concessions in that department. And India is also aware of its geostrategic importance as a partner to the U.S. to better counter China. Angering such an ally, who is also founding member of the BRICS emerging countries bloc, could be counterproductive for Washington. India is becoming a new manufacturing hub for U.S. companies looking to reduce their reliance on China, chief among them Apple, who now produces the iPhones sold in the U.S. in India after moving its supply chain away from China. So we'll see how these different elements play out until that Friday deadline, or perhaps talks will continue beyond it, with India willing to accept the pain of higher tariffs if it means it gets a better deal down the road.
Or maybe that deadline will move once again, Charles. I mean, who knows?
It's a lot of uncertainty.
But elsewhere, the US and South Korea have reached what Donald Trump is calling a full and complete trade deal.
The agreement will see American tariffs on nearly all South Korean goods set at 15%, the same rate reached in recent U.S. trade frameworks with the UK, the EU, and Japan. Seoul is hailing the deal as a victory. Comes just ahead of the August 1st deadline that would have seen Korea hit with 25% tariffs. Brian Quinn has the details.
Another deal done just in time. The U.S. and South Korea have agreed to what Donald Trump called a full and complete trade deal, setting American tariffs on Korean goods at 15%, just one day before they were scheduled to jump to 25%.
We have reduced the tariff on our main export item, cars, to 15%. For semiconductor and pharmaceutical sectors, which were scheduled to have tariffs imposed in the future, we will also receive treatment that is not disadvantageous compared to other countries.
American goods, meanwhile, will not face Korean tariffs. It's good news for Korean automakers like Hyundai and Kia and tech giants like Samsung, who will face the same US tariffs as competitors from the UK, the EU, and Japan, all of whom also recently struck 15% tariff deals with the Trump administration. As with those countries, though, Korea's major steel and aluminum industries will not be spared the 50% tariffs Trump has slapped on foreign metals worldwide. There is another bright spot for Seoul. The deal will see it keep restrictions on agricultural imports in place, allowing it to continue to protect its politically sensitive beef and rice farming sectors. Meanwhile, Seoul has agreed to invest $350 billion into the U.S. Of that, $150 billion will reportedly be targeted at improving the American shipbuilding industry. South Korea is a world leader in the sector, second only to China in the number of ocean vessels made per year. South Korean business groups have welcomed the deal, saying it reduces uncertainty in the country's export environment and puts Korea on a competitive footing with other U.S. trading partners.
So some deals done, some not quite signed and sealed yet. Charles, how's that impacting the markets?
Let's have a look at the picture in Asia this Thursday. As you see, the Kospi index in Seoul trading lower despite that deal, pulled down by automakers who, in spite of the tariff rate being lowered to 15% from 25%, are now actually losing a 2.5% competitive edge against their Japanese rivals, thanks to a previous Korea-US free trade deal that's been erased in that new deal. In India, the Nifty 50 index falling in early trade after Trump upped the ante in those talks.
Okay.